The Texas Rangers make an addition to their bullpen, a much-needed one in Chris Martin. The Los Angeles Dodgers move on from Gavin Lux. That and more ahead here at the Upside. And welcome into the MLB Hot Stove Daily here at the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Appreciate you guys joining us today on a Monday evening. Whole lot going out there in the sports world right now, especially in baseball. We finally have some actual movement to discuss. Let's start with the Gavin Lux trade from the Los Angeles Dodgers to the Cincinnati Reds. Reds get a really good player, although injured at times over the last couple of years, but someone they can really grow with in Gavin Lux. Now, they kind of underpaid on this one, but they still did a very nice job in this trade. Same thing with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Even though this trade is generally considered an underpay by Cincinnati, I really like the Dodgers' end of this. They're getting a supplemental first-round pick out of this deal, and also a prospect they really targeted a couple years back in the 16th round. Ultimately, he doesn't sign with the Dodgers. Ends up going to the Reds in this past draft in the 3rd round. Still has not taken the field in a major league or minor league uniform as of yet. But I really like the return here for the Dodgers. They really see something in Soroka, and we'll see what they ultimately turn out to have in him and in that pick as well. But good trade, I believe, for both sides. The other thing this does for the Dodgers, it saves them a boatload of money. He was only expected to make $2.7 million in actual salary. But when you factor in the taxes, the Dodgers are saving a hefty sum here with them being able to offload that salary there. So really like the deal from the Dodgers' perspective. You also have to look at the infield mix that they have right now, bringing in Kim, bringing in Edman, and having all the other options that they already have. There was some redundancy there with Gavin Lux.
And I'm not sure how much playing time he really would have had with the Los Angeles Dodgers. So, good move here for the Dodgers to kind of free up a little bit of their roster crunch right now by bringing in a couple of pieces that will help them in the future and, of course, save them money this season. Welcome in Holly, Master Vin, Rafe. Appreciate you guys joining us. Chris Martin, that's the second move of the day anyway. He goes to the Texas Rangers. That was rumored around the winter meetings that they had a meeting with Chris Martin. Ultimately, it looked like he was going to go back to Texas, and they get the deal done. Still haven't heard any financials as to what the deal looks like, but it does look like a one-year deal. If I had to guess, we're probably looking in the $4 to $5 million range with some incentives on the back end of the deal. But this is going to be the final season for Chris Martin. He wants to just pitch a little bit closer to home, which is why he wanted to come back to Texas. This gives him a really good option in the 8th inning. He has pitched a little bit in the 9th, but he's never really saved more than 4 games a year. So really like the addition here for the Texas Rangers to help strengthen that bullpen once again, but they still have their number one priority in the back end of that bullpen, a proven closer. Kirby Yates is where their priority is right now. I'd be surprised if they don't end up getting a premium closer, whether it be the free agent market or via trade, but a good start here over the offseason, bringing in all the different middle relief options, now getting themselves a high leverage guy in Chris Martin, and then they're going to have to finish it off with a guy like Kirby Yates or somebody along those lines. Now, one thing I will mention about Chris Martin for the Texas Rangers is that he does have some injury track record. We've seen that over and over again in his career. He's never really pitched a big number of innings, especially in the last couple of years, even though he signed a 2-year, $17-ish million deal with the Red Sox. He was good for them, but he only pitched, I believe, in 44 innings in one season, 51 in the other. Not exactly a guy you're going to count on to give you 70, 75, 80 innings out of the bullpen this year. He does have back issues from time to time, and because this is going to be his final year, I'd imagine there'd be more medical issues than there usually would be. A tight hammy, arm soreness, whatever the case may be. So that's why a guy like Robert Garcia, the addition that they made in the Nathaniel Lowe trade anyway, is a really good addition for them, because when Chris Martin isn't able to go, until Josh Sborz is ready, he's probably going to be the guy that's going to be counted upon in that 8th inning role if Martin does go down early in the year. And I can already hear you guys saying, oh, it's just another injured guy in the bullpen. Why did we even sign this guy? Settle down. He's a very good relief option back there. And yes, the Rangers now have plenty of options to go to, both at the major league level now and with their minor league system as well. They're probably going to start the season with Pennington and Latz on the minor league roster, and then when one of those guys goes down, or when Sborz isn't on the active roster, they can have one of those guys in there. Now, would you rather have Martin in there? Absolutely. But you have a much deeper bullpen than at any point that you've had in the last 2 years. And by the way, one of those years they won the World Series. Now, they still need to get an elite reliever in that closer spot, but I believe they will get the job done. Rafe, Rangers signed Sasaki, trade Gray, trade for Helsley, and hey, looks like a pretty good offseason. Sasaki, I still think, is pretty much in the air for pretty much anybody out there. Dodgers, Rangers, Padres, Cubs, Mets, and Yankees are the teams that are supposedly the favorites there. We'll see where he goes, though. I don't think any team should count their chickens until they're hatched. I think that's why the Rangers have held on to John Gray until they get a Sasaki or something along those lines. Master Vinman would love to see the Cubs move pitching third base. I'd really like to see them add another starting pitcher. We've caught about a couple of different trades with the Cubs the last couple of days as far as where they might go. Still, the free agent market is another place where they could look to to bring in a guy like Andrew Heaney or a guy like Max Scherzer or somebody along those lines. A low-cost option on a 1-year or 2-year deal. Scherzer, I think, would cost a little bit too much for what the Cubs would be willing to bring in. But I think Heaney is certainly within their price point as far as a starting pitcher that could help them out. JS, Lucas, welcome in. Festa looks solid towards the end of the season. Hope he can find success somewhere else. He was a 31-year-old, a guy they claimed off of waivers last year. He really did pitch well for the Rangers. He at least gave them some depth, some length out of that bullpen when they needed it down the stretch in the season. Was he ever going to be part of the long-term plan for the Rangers? No. He did have a nice run, though, with Texas. And, you could really see the passion that he played the game with. Finally getting his chance to, have some consistent time at the major league level. He had some time with the Mariners, had a cup of coffee anyway with the Mets, and then found a little bit of more consistency with the Rangers this past season. But he was only up from August through September, And I hope he gets on somewhere else as kind of a middle relief option out there. I'd love to see him get an opportunity to do that. And he's proven the ability to be able to handle that middle relief type of a role. And I'd like to see him get that opportunity somewhere. Honestly, I think he probably will go unclaimed on waivers, though, and so he may have to agree to a minor league deal and get called up at some point by another team, which is tough for a guy in his early 30s trying to continue his major league career. You wonder how many more times he can be waived before he finally hangs it up and just calls it a career. Morning, Lucas. Appreciate you joining us. Welcome back, Nicholas. Randy, appreciate you joining us. Callie, welcome back. I saw something about Castillo and the Orioles. You see anything on that? By the way, I've said it. I'd love to see the Yankees get Arraez. We'll start with Castillo. I did see what you're referring to there. No surprise there that they are looking for some starting pitching. I'm a little bit surprised that it wasn't Dylan Cease, because we've heard multiple reports about their preference for Dylan Cease over Castillo, but reports coming out today that they actually are pushing for Castillo or somebody else to frontline that rotation, which is absolutely necessary. So whether they do it before spring training or at the trade deadline, they have to bring in a number one capable starting pitcher. Castillo can at least fill the void, in a pinch. But I think the preference would be to go even higher for a better quality number one in that rotation. But I would like to see them get Castillo, at least as a starting point and just kind of work from there. Second part of your comment there about Arraez, I would love to see him on pretty much any of these teams that we've talked about. The Yankees, for instance, the Astros, the Rangers. I think he'd be a great fit in any one of those lineups because you're going to see your number two hitter have his RBIs jump by 20. I think I've said that, 10 times over the last 3 weeks anyway. I think he's that good of a player. The on-base percentage, the ability that he brings to be able to get on base is what you really like in front of your best hitter. Drive up the RBI totals. Your offense is always going to be good with him on your roster. And I think he'd be a good get for the Yankees. Now, defensively is the bigger question. There was many questions out there, including one posted by John Heyman later on this afternoon after Passan tweeted out the interest in Luis Arraez, that he was he said to temper the Yankees' interest in Luis Arraez. While they like the bat, they don't necessarily like the fit of him at second base. So we'll see what they decide to do. I think they need to make an improvement in that offense if they choose to go after Arraez. I wonder what their return might end up looking like for the Padres and what would happen with Marcus Stroman. Remember, part of the reason why they aren't going after Bregman or Arenado is because of the finances involved. Arraez has 1 year left on his deal. He'll be a free agent after the year. He's making around $17 million, I believe, between 15 and 17 anyway. And that's not a small chunk of change for a team that's trying to avoid the Cohen tax. So something to kind of keep in mind there as well. Appreciate you guys joining us late on a Monday evening. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. Would really appreciate that if you wouldn't mind helping us out. And hitting that like on the video goes a long way to helping us here at the Upside. If you have questions, let us know where you're watching from, who your favorite team is, and send us your question if you have one. Randy, what's your take on the Pods ownership feud? Just more headaches, honestly, for an organization that Peter Seidler had passed away, and then ownership, the controlling ownership anyway, has been fought over a little bit now. Now you get the lawsuit today. It's just tough to see for a team that's been struggling financially to invest in the team the way Peter Seidler did at the very end. He knew that he was going to be out the door soon. We'll kind of use that euphemism there, but it's tough to see for an organization that continues to try to push the pedal down and try to win. I just would like to see them be able to get out of their own way as far as the financial aspects of it, but it's tough to do in San Diego. We saw that for the reasons why the Chargers decided to leave San Diego to go to LA. No matter what you think as a fan base in San Diego, LA is better for them financially. The Padres, being in San Diego, one of the last professional teams there, they should be able to capitalize on that market and be able to drive as much interest out of that local market. And because of the financial issues and struggle at the top of ownership, they haven't really done quite as much as I had hoped. I thought they'd tried a little bit harder to keep Juan Soto. Ultimately, that they knew wasn't going to happen, so they end up deciding to flip him. Luis Arraez, Dylan Cease are both free agents at the end of the year, along with Michael King. We keep bringing up those two names as far as Arraez and Cease because it doesn't look like they'll get extensions done with either one of them. Again, financial issues there. One guy I think is possible for them to be able to keep is Michael King. So I would just like to be able to see them, get along, solve their financial issues off the field, and figure out how to make a winning product on the field, because A.J. Preller and that team have done a bang-up job as far as trying to push the pedal down as much as they can given the limitations that their ownership has given them. Callie, why are people down on Arraez? He singles Soto's defense is pretty bad. I wouldn't say Soto's defense is pretty bad. I'd say it's league average at best. Arraez is not exactly league average defensively. As far as offense goes, Soto is significantly better hitter as far as power, clutch gene, that kind of a thing. Arraez really hasn't been given that opportunity in the postseason the way Soto has. Soto's risen to the occasion. Now, the thing that the market really has a tough time dealing with is a player who uses contact as his primary skill. For instance, Tony Gwynn, I think, is the perfect comp to Luis Arraez. How exactly do you pay for that in today's day and age? It's very difficult to see how that player gets paid in today's market because there's not another player like him out there. Usually teams pay for power, slug, OPS, those kinds of things. Arraez is better at other things. He's better at the intangibles of the game and being able to get on base being one of those intangibles. Do teams usually pay for that type of a skill? Not really, and that's why the Padres are having a hard time getting a extension done with him. I think another team would likely be able to pay him more in free agency, or if they're able to trade for him as well. Welcome in Verlis. Welcome in VPCZX. Appreciate you joining us once again. Arraez batting average is so crazy. Couldn't agree more with you. Master Vinban, could the Cubs sign Carlos Estevez? What would the bullpen look like if that happens? Honestly, I would like that signing for them. I think it'd be a little bit cheaper anyway than Kirby Yates or Tanner Scott. But you might be able to get him for a longer-term deal as well. Remember, the Cubs really came into this offseason looking to push the pedal down for 2025. They did so by trading for Kyle Tucker, but yet they still have a hole in their rotation. They still have a hole at the back end of their bullpen, and they still are looking for some offensive weapons. They don't have a whole lot of money to fill those issues with, and so maybe they go the trade route and go the cheaper route to be able to solve the bullpen. Maybe they go the trade route for a starting pitcher like they tried to for Jesus Luzardo. But they're very much limited as far as where they want to spend the money. I've mentioned this before anyway, but I want to reiterate it one more time. I view the Cubs ownership and the front office right now very similarly to the way the Toronto Blue Jays are acting. Remember, Blue Jays ownership has said, hey, we want to win, we want to get to the postseason, and we want to win a series. So, front office is in the final year of their deal. They're trying to push the pedal down and can't get anything across the finish line. Their two big superstars are free agents at the end of the year. They have very little stability at the top of that organization. Meanwhile, the Cubs, I think less well known anyway, is their push to try to win in 2025. And I think the reasons for it are because of ownership on down wants to try to win a postseason series. We'll see if they can get the job done. Otherwise, we could see Hoyer out on the curb. All right, D. Let's see here. Nicholas, agree on both, man. Mariners and O's are perfect trade partners. I would love for the Yanks, or I wonder what the Yanks would have to give up for Arraez. It wouldn't have to be a whole lot. Remember, he only has a trade value of around 7, if I remember correctly right now. That would mean probably a couple of middling prospects, something along those lines. Nobody inside of the top 5, top 10-ish range. You're probably talking about 2 top 20 guys, but not a top 10 guy. As far as the O's and Mariners making perfect trade partners, for the Orioles, I think it's a perfect match. For the Mariners side of things, you get Mountcastle there. That at least helps you for this upcoming season. Do you bring back Hurstad in that deal as well? I don't see that as a real match because I think that'd be a bit of an overpay from the Orioles. I think Mountcastle and just freeing up the money from Castillo might be the best case scenario. I think there are other teams that are better fits in a Castillo trade, but for the Orioles, there's not much better of an option out there to kind of upgrade their rotation right now. East Coast Blue Jays, appreciate you joining us for the first time. If you guys are new here, make sure you guys hit that like on the video. Who will Anthony Santander sign with? I would guess with the Toronto Blue Jays. I think the Tigers ultimately get Santander done. I don't think he's ultimately going to go to the Red Sox as far as... I don't think Bregman's going to go to the Red Sox. I think Bregman ultimately signs with the Tigers, gets the deal done. That means that he's going to go to the highest bidder for Santander, and the Blue Jays are just waving around money right now, just hoping somebody takes it, and I think he will be the guy that does. VPC ZX, your 2025 World Series champions, the Expos. I would love to see the Expos back in baseball again. They deserve a great team out there again. As far as expansion teams, I'd love to see Nashville get a team, Montreal, and I'm sure there's one other market I'm forgetting. San Diego just got an MLS team, so 2 pro teams now. Okay, that's good. Anthony, welcome back. Michael, a baseball fan. What baseball player would you like them to do a portrayal in a biopic? I'm either choosing Roger Maris, Joe DiMaggio, or Mickey Mantle. I'm not a huge fan of biopics. I think they're okay. But as far as if I had to pick one, Ricky Henderson would be up there. George Steinbrenner, as far as an owner, would be up there. As far as a player in current baseball, David Ortiz comes to mind as far as a more recent player. But a current player, maybe Shohei Ohtani and everything he's had to deal with over in Japan, coming over to play here, the whole interpreter saga and everything else like that. Anthony, Michael, with how crazy the value for relievers, good or great, have gotten the last few seasons. Do you think Miami could get a good return for Cronin or Nardi? I think Nardi could get a nice return. Cronin maybe a little bit less so. Nardi, I think, is more of a high leverage guy, so you could probably get a couple of top 20 guys. Cronin, I think you might get a couple of top 30 guys. Anthony, Michael, with the issues with Tampa trying to get the stadium, do you think the majors tries to move them to Montreal, Oregon? No. I think they're going to stay in Tampa Bay for the foreseeable future. Tampa Bay, they just had a little bit of news come out today, is that they're reinvesting in the Tropicana as far as getting the repairs done there. So we'll see what happens. Master Vinman, latest on Bregman. No real updates today, but the latest still says that the favorite is the Detroit Tigers, the Toronto Blue Jays, and the Boston Red Sox, with the Cubs as a dark horse and the Los Angeles Angels. Money sounds like it's best from the Blue Jays. Money sounds like the least from the Detroit Tigers. Red Sox would love to get the deal done, but they have an issue with Devers because it sounds like he doesn't want to move off of third base. At least he relayed that message through the media, through his agent anyway. So it sounds unlikely that he would go to Boston unless he's going to be their second baseman. And then you have two guys making big money there with Trevor Story and with Alex Bregman. I guess you could say something similar with Baez and Bregman, but the Detroit Tigers, I think, are the team that's going to get the job done there. If they don't, I think Toronto could be a good team for them, or maybe the Chicago Cubs, because remember, they're all in on 2025, just like the Blue Jays are as well. Financially, it'd be a little bit tougher for the Cubs to be able to pull off. They probably wouldn't be able to make an acquisition of a starting pitcher via free agency or of a reliever. They'd probably have to go the trade route to solve those issues, so they at least can keep their payroll with whatever their means are right now. It sounds like they didn't have a whole lot to begin with. Trading Bellinger, part of the reason why they did that was to free up some salary, and exhausting all of that on Bregman. While it's a great impact signing for them, I don't think it solves all their issues. I don't think they're necessarily a favorite in the National League to even get to NLCS. I think they'd have a hard time winning the division. I don't think they'd have a prayer at getting a wild card, even with Alex Bregman. Call me crazy, Boston Red Sox will win the AL East. I don't think it's out of the question. I don't think you're crazy. I think the Yankees are the favorite, though. I think the Orioles, once they add a number one starter, could be right there with them. But until they do that, I have my doubts about them. But the Red Sox have done a nice job improving that rotation. They still need another impact bat as far as I'm concerned, though. Somebody who can be a real leader on the field. Somebody who's been there, done that in the playoffs. Oh, wait, that sounds like Alex Bregman. But it doesn't sound like they're going to be able to get that one done. Nicholas, wonder if the Mariners could just get a couple of prospects for Castillo. M's could move their catcher to first. His name split my mind. And call up Harry Ford. M's are looking to lower salary. They are. Their catcher is Cal Raleigh. He's been outspoken about their front office being unwilling to invest in that team. Remember when they made the trade of Kendall Graveman at the deadline to the division rival Houston Astros, basically signaling, hey, we're out of it this year. Let's go ahead and box it up, pack it in. Next year's our year. And Cal Raleigh and company really did not appreciate that because they were not that far out of a playoff spot at that time. And then to trade him within the division was a tough pill to swallow. He's a real good leader on that team, though. Cal Raleigh, really good vocal leader for that clubhouse. And I would like to see them bring in a couple of offensive pieces, whether it's via trade as part of the return for Luis Castillo or in free agency. But we'll see where they go. Anthony, with Luis Castillo, do you think Seattle holding for the right package can sometimes take the value of the player? I think they're hoping for the right mix of return back. I think there's plenty of teams that have registered interest in Castillo. I think they're just waiting for the right offer to materialize, the right mix of prospects and major league talent, enough of a talent that they can that would be worth offsetting the greatest rotation they've ever had in franchise history, the greatest rotation in the American League as it is currently. Once they lose Castillo, they lose that advantage. And while they still have four really good starters and another one coming from the minors, it's not the rotation that they had last year. Castillo was a big part of that. Part of the reason why they made the trade with the Cincinnati Reds is to develop a huge starting rotation. And then they get the ownership group basically saying, hey, $15 million is all you can add this offseason. That's not really enough to address the needs on this team from an offensive perspective. So they're going to have to free up some money somewhere. That guy is going to be Luis Castillo, who's going to be the sacrificial lamb in that one. Alrighty, appreciate you guys joining us. Got about 65 of you guys with us. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. Let's go on to some of the other headlines we saw today. Next one is going to be Michael Lorenzen goes back to the Kansas City Royals for 1 year, $7 million. Total guarantee on that one, I believe, is $7.5 million. He gets a $5.5 million base salary. I believe it's a $1.5 million buyout, so it's a $7 million guarantee with another $1 million available in incentives. And it does have a mutual option as well for, I believe, $12 million. That's not going to be picked up. So it's essentially a 1 year deal that they space out the money a little bit by giving the buyout on the next year to get that guarantee up a little bit. So good signing here for the Royals. Their first free agent acquisition of a major league signing. They did bring in Gavin Biggio yesterday. Like that signing for them as well. Gives them some insurance and say in case Jonathan India does not work out for them at second base. I think that will be one of the greatest offseason moves that will look back, going into the next season and just say, hey, that was a real shrewd pickup for a team that's looking to get more contact in front of Bobby Witt and more speed on this team. That's the way the Royals did it to be able to get to the World Series in 2015-ish, right around that range. The greatest teams in Royals history had speed and defense, contact rate, getting on base, and just wreaking havoc out there. And with the new rules and new rule changes in Major League Baseball, bringing in India should be able to give them a real nice advantage in the same way that they had with some of their greatest teams. So Royals make the addition of Michael Lorenzen. I think he's going to be kind of a swing guy for them, going to be a starter at times, going to be a reliever at times. Lorenzen, in order to try to drum up business for him in free agency, basically said, hey, I can qualify as a two-way player. All you have to do is basically play me in 20 games. And I wonder if they decide to do something along those lines, because once you get that eligibility, now you can carry him on your roster and 13 other pitchers. If you don't get that two-way player ability there, then you're capped at 13 pitchers, and Lorenzen would count as one of them. That's one way he was trying to be creative in ways for teams to try to acquire him. But ultimately, he goes back to the Kansas City Royals. Like the signing for them, we'll see what else is in store for the Royals. The last move of the day that we saw is another one from the Texas Rangers. They had designated Owen White, a former top 5 prospect in their system. Really had fallen on hard times over the last year and a half, and I think he was down to around prospect number 28, 29, 30 for the Rangers this past season, and ultimately was DFA'd. They had to clear off some roster spots to clear room for Hobie Milner, I think was the guy that he was DFA'd for. Ultimately, he gets traded today to the Cincinnati Reds, their second move of the day. I think he's probably going to start the season at AAA for them and be invited to spring training. And if they can get him to be a productive starter again, they could really have something there. He does have the talent. The question is control. The question is injuries have really crept up on him over the last 3 or 4 years. And I would like to see him get his feet wet in the major leagues with some consistency. But I think the Reds are still favorites to bring in another starting pitcher like Kyle Gibson or Lance Lynn, somebody to soak up the innings rather than go a young guy at the back end of that rotation. Cruz, welcome back. D-Rod, thank you for joining us once again. Yankees getting Arraez would be a great leadoff hitter for their lineup. I would agree there. I think he'd be great in any lineup. That's why I think he could be one of the underrated additions a team is going to make this offseason that really pays dividends once you get to October. D-Rod, Michael, how are you, pal? Good evening, everyone. Doing pretty great, my friend. Long day at work, so wanted to get out and talk some baseball with you guys. Really great. I know you guys may or may not be wrestling fans, but Raw on Netflix was off the chain today. There was WrestleMania level matches out there, so my lady loves watching wrestling, so that was fun to watch before we got on here. And catching up on some of the baseball news we were watching, so a lot of fun today. Long business day, but getting to talk some baseball is always the best part of the day. Let's see here, Randy. Are you thinking of Rick Ankiel? Michael, can you bring up a player I haven't talked about in a while? Whatever happened to Alan Craig, the former pitcher that turned outfielder for the Cardinals? That was Rick Ankiel. Yes, it was. Um, let's see here. Yes, Randy. He would be another one to do a biopic on. I would agree there. I remember some of his story, but I don't remember all of it. It's been too long since I went through his story. Some of these two-way players or players that come over from the Dominican or from Cuba or where they have to use coyotes and they have all kinds of issues. Leodis Martin would be another one I'd love to hear because he had some scary stuff go on as he was coming over to the U.S. Yasiel Puig would come to mind as well, but I'd rather go for a guy like David Ortiz, somebody went all the way to the top of the sport. Had some failings when he was in Minnesota as well. Getting out of there, moving on to Boston, changing the type of player he really was when he went there as well. That'd be another player I'd really love to see a biopic on. Maybe an Alex Rodriguez, if we could get the real story on, the whole steroid controversy, what it was like going to Texas for that mega contract, and then getting traded for having the Rangers eat $60 million a year salary just to say goodbye and get off our team. To go to the Yankees, I'd love to see another biopic about that as well. I'm not a big biopic guy, but those would be some fun ones. Anthony, Michael, thoughts here. My predictions for expansion: Salt Lake, San Antonio, Austin, Oklahoma City, Orlando, Portland, Des Moines, Iowa. Orlando, scratch that one out. I don't think Orlando would be a hot spot for a team. I think there would be a good location for Tampa to move their team to, not too far away. But I wouldn't call that an expansion team. I wouldn't move a team that close to Tampa Bay. As far as Portland, I could see it, but I think that would really eat into the Mariners' market share. I don't see that being a real chance, especially with Tacoma, the minor league team, being relatively close by as well. Des Moines makes sense. College World Series, that kind of a thing. Oklahoma City makes a little bit of sense, but not a whole lot to me. San Antonio, they're thirsty for something, anything right now, as far as a professional team. Austin, one of the fastest growing metroplexes in the world right now. I think they were top 10 a couple of years ago as far as population, and they've really exploded even since then. I think they should be getting a team at some point here. Salt Lake, underrated market, but I'll keep that one in mind. But I think Nashville's more likely. Montreal's more likely at this point. Aunt Gail is a post-game color analyst on the Cards Network. Cool. What team signs the next free agent pitcher? I think that could be anybody, honestly. We'll check in on X here in just a moment and see if anything is happening tonight. Maybe we'll have some new news to discuss here as well. Michael, welcome in. Welcome in. Does the family feud with the Padres affect the Padres signing free agents? Signing free agents, no. As far as getting extensions done, possibly. But I think Preller's going to have some level of autonomy to be able to operate with the budget he already has. As far as trying to exceed the budget that he has right now, probably not. Which is why, trying to get an extension done for Luis Arraez is a tough one to get done. I think a deal getting done with Michael King is more likely. Cease, I think, would exceed their budget, which is why I think they'll try to move him as well. Sam, any news on the San Francisco Giants? Well, nothing really as far as Pete Alonso seems to be the one guy outside of some starting pitching that they're looking at right now. Mets, I still think are the favorite for Pete Alonso. Lucas, Oklahoma City makes sense to me. They have college-type fans, and the basketball team gets lots of fans. They do. I just wonder about the ability to draw there. They have a couple of really good minor league teams there. Reminds me a lot of the Nashville market. I just want to see Nashville get the team first, see how that works, and if it works really well, then you could expand into Oklahoma City. But I think Nashville needs to go first. They're the most deserving as far as these AAA, AA ball clubs that are cities anyway that host those teams. That should be getting a major league team at some point. Nicholas, you're in Springfield, Oregon. I wouldn't go to Washington to watch a game. I would go to Portland multiple times a season. I know others that would do the same. I'm not doubting you there. I just think that with the market size there, I'm just not sure how big the market is if it can support having a Portland team in there. I know they support the Trailblazers really well. At least they did when they were winning. I haven't really kept up with how their attendance has gone during this latest downswing in their organization. You got the Portland Timbers there as well, if I remember correctly. Maybe baseball would do really well there, but I think more likely we're to see the city of Nashville and Montreal to get a team first, and then we can talk about all these other destinations as well. Alrighty, let's head over to X and see if anything is happening today. Let me get it pulled up here for us. Memphis seems like a natural expansion site, maybe. I've been to been to Memphis anyway. Could they have a team? Sure. I'm just not sure how big of a draw it would be. I would rather it be in Nashville, a similar market size, but I think they'd be able to draw better there, a little bit further away from some of the other markets, unlike Memphis. I like this tweet from Ari Alexander. Just watched the newest Landman. Jerry Jones should sell the Cowboys and become a full-time character actor. In case you guys haven't didn't watch Landman, he was in the most recent episode, basically visiting the bedside of John Hamm's character, who basically plays an oil tycoon. And when you see Jerry Jones, you're just like, "What? That's Jerry Jones," and it takes you out of the scene for just a minute and be like, "That's actually Jerry Jones." And Billy Bob Thornton comes in as well, and they're just like, "Hey, it's Jerry Jones." And so it takes a minute for the scene to kind of get into it, and then Jerry kind of shows how he kind of started his businesses anyway, how he acquired the Cowboys, and how it was important to him to constantly have a business with his kids and be able to go to work with his kids, and how big of a family or how much he is all about family. And you can't really fault Jerry Jones on that one. He has definitely been that type of a guy. He wants to run his greatest passion projects in life with his kids, and he has done so with Stephen Jones and with all of his kids and grandkids at this point. And whatever your thoughts are on Jerry as a GM, whatever your thoughts are on his ownership of the Cowboys, whatever your thoughts are on as far as his role in the NFL and with the commissioner and all those kinds of things, TV deals, etc., you cannot doubt the man is definitely all about family as well. So I like that tweet there by Ari. Just that scene was kind of encapsulated Jerry Jones, just the the gravitas that he brings. Wow, that's Jerry Jones acting. Then it takes you a minute to realize, okay, then he's actually telling you the story of his life, and just something kind of cool that I noticed in that show. D-Rod, Jerry Jones right now is a full-time character actor that happens to own an NFL team. That's funny. Randy, in that 91-page document that was filed by the widow of Peter Seidler today, Roki Sasaki and the franchise, and moving the franchise was in the body of the filing. Lots of crazy info is in that document. Give it a read. I will. I would love to get a hold of that one. Let's see here. Just trying to scroll through some of these. There's the addition of Chris Martin to the Texas Rangers one-year deal. Again, I still haven't seen the money as far as how much he's going to get. And that's going to be important for the Rangers because remember, they had roughly $18 million with which to work this offseason to try to stay underneath that tax threshold. And I think they'll do so. I think Martin is probably going to come in $4 to $5 million, but I'm still waiting to see those numbers. So if you guys see those numbers pop out somewhere, let me know. I'd love to see them. Alrighty, just want to thank you guys for joining us today. We've grown quite a bit over the last couple of weeks anyway, so make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. Follow us over at X here, at Upside SN, and on Facebook, Upside Sports Network. We would greatly appreciate having you guys with us. Let's go ahead and check out X one more time before we get into some other discussion from today. Nothing yet. Okay. So one thing that we were hoping for yesterday when we were doing our couple of lives that we did, we were hoping the dam would finally break, that the cold temperatures forcing people to get inside, the holiday finally being over, that we'd finally see some activity both on the free agent market and via trade. Well, we got our wish. We got the dam to break a little bit. There's a little bit of movement now, and I would expect some of that movement to continue tomorrow. I know some of you guys are wondering when these top guys sign. There's only a few of those guys left. We're talking about Bregman at the top for position players. Then you get Alonso, Santander, etc. And then on the pitching side, you still have Roki Sasaki out there. That one's going to take a little bit of time on the starting pitching side. Then you've got guys like Andrew Heaney, Nick Pivetta, and several other smaller level pitchers who are going to get a 1 or 2 year deal somewhere out there. On the trade market, you got tons of guys available. Luis Castillo, Dylan Cease, Pablo Lopez. I know some people are even throwing out Sandy Alcantara, Jordan Montgomery among several other starting pitching options. John Gray, Framber Valdez. If they don't get an extension in Houston, maybe they decide to move on from Framber. Lots of movement I'm expecting here over the week. Just like we were hoping yesterday, we'd finally see some movement. We finally got it, and I think this is the beginning of the dam breaking. I think we're going to see some relief movement tomorrow. The Rangers bringing in Chris Martin, that's one move that they needed to get done. Bringing in an 8th inning option. Now their biggest and only priority left, at least as far as I'm concerned, aside from, of course, Roki Sasaki, is bringing in an elite closer. So we'll see what happens. I would love to see the market, really get going with Bregman signing tomorrow. I think that's the one thing that's holding up position players, specifically guys like Pete Alonso and Anthony Santander, because once Bregman goes, Santander, I think, signs within 48 hours. I think Alonso probably signs within a week of Bregman signing. And then I think the rest of the free agents really tumble after that. So remember, pitchers and catchers reporting a little over a month right now. We're not that far away from spring training and baseball getting back underway. We're going to be live every single night around 9 o'clock. Be sure to join us as we break down all the latest from MLB's Hot Stove. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe. Follow us on X at UpsideSN and on Facebook, Upside Sports Network. Thank you guys for liking the video. I saw our like numbers jump up there. Appreciate that. Thank you. Let's see if we can catch up on a few of these comments here. D-Rod, was the extension that the Mets offered Alonso 7 for 157? Will he get anything close to that? I don't remember the years on it, but 157 sounds close. As far as the years, I think it'll actually be less than that, and the AAV will actually be higher. I think he's going to get 6 years around 150, so he will get something close, yes. Nicholas, you're the man. I love your show. Always good to talk with you, brother. But I'm about to go to bed. Have a good night. Have a good night, Nicholas. Appreciate you joining us once again. Always good talking baseball with you guys. And, I love our chats that we have. Even when it gets a little contentious like it did towards the end of the show last night, you guys are generally very respectful for one another's fan bases. And, we get all of the different fan bases represented here. I'm a Rangers fan. I don't hide that. We got several Yankees fans in the chat. Orioles, Dodgers, Padres, Cubs, Angels, Mariners, Astros. We get every fan base in our chat, and so it's really great how you guys interact and have made this channel grow. Remember, MLB Network doesn't really cover baseball anywhere near the level we do, even here on YouTube. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Right now in the offseason, you don't have High Heat to turn to. You don't have MLB Now, Clubhouse Confidential. You don't have, what was the other show? Intentional Talk. You don't have any of those shows. You're left with Hot Stove, which used to be a really great informative show when they had Ken Rosenthal on it. Ken Rosenthal left, started The Athletic, and went about his business. The show has really deteriorated to the point it's basically a variety show at this point. And then in the evening, you're left with MLB Tonight, which is basically just a highlight show and guys patting each other on the back. And they still have a couple of reporters there that still dish out the news. I love Morosi, Heyman, Sherman, Feinsand as well, but they don't give those guys nearly enough camera time and nearly enough time in front of the camera to talk about the moves, the rumors that are happening, and that's what we prioritize here. We talk about that speculation. We talk about where trades are going to go, where people are going to go, or as far as trade routes. Who's left on the free agent market? When are they going to sign? How are they going to sign? What deal are they going to sign for? And then what happens after they sign that deal? What other holes are left to fill on that roster? Does this make them a contending team or not? We cover all of that for you guys here at the Upside, so make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. I love Foul Territory's content. They've gotten better as they've gone along anyway. You get a couple of really good podcasts, but nobody really covers the sport like we do here. So make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. Lucas, biggest Metroplexes without a baseball team. Montreal 4.2, Orlando 2.8, Charlotte 2.7, Vancouver, San Antonio, Portland, Austin, Sacramento, Columbus, and Indianapolis. I think Austin's got to be way higher than that. They were top 10 in the U.S. as far as total population. Trying to think I'm wondering how big they were counting the Metroplex there for Austin, though. Because it's not just Austin. Basically, once you get to about Waco, Texas, all the way down through Austin, it's basically all one big conglomeration right there. And so it's a really big area, a lot of population, a lot of people crammed into that area, which is why I think they're going to get a team of some kind. I know football is talking about having an expansion team at some point in San Antonio. I know the XFL and USFL had teams in that area as well. I think that's an untapped potential market for football fans because, again, football is king right now in the U.S., and having that market, I'm sure Dallas would be unhappy about it. I'm sure the Texans would be unhappy about it. But there are so many people that are underrepresented by having by having their own team there. I'd love to see that addressed as well. Michael Rowland, I think this is the first time I've seen you in here in a minute anyway. Appreciate you joining us. I can't believe I missed Raw. I'll go back and watch it. I have to go to bed soon too. Peace. Appreciate you joining us, Michael. Thank you guys for joining us. I know Raw was pretty incredible tonight. Honestly, it was basically WrestleMania level card tonight as well. The first match of the day, one of the best matches I've seen outside of a WrestleMania by far. D-Rod Rosenthal was shown the door because of his comments on the commissioner. Kudos to Ken for standing his ground. Yes, but he was also looking to do something a little bit differently. He was always going to be the journalist first and a yes man second. I'll put it that way. So, Lucas, Austin, Round Rock, San Marcos, Texas, ranked 26th in the U.S., not including Canada. I got to pull up the population anyway. That doesn't sound right. I remember seeing it was top 10 anyway as far as population, as far as the Metroplex. I know Dallas is, I can't remember where they were ranked, but I think Houston was 4. Austin was in that 10 category. Dallas was actually a little bit less population than the Austin area itself, if I remember correctly. Mark, appreciate you joining us once again. But we finally got some activity tonight. Just to kind of recap what happened today, Gavin Lux gets traded from the Los Angeles Dodgers in exchange for 2 pieces. One was a third-round pick last year, Mike Soroka, I think was his name anyway. Guy that the Dodgers had drafted in the 16th round the year before. They really value him. And I think that they really wanted to get their hands on him. I think they really see something there that they want to try to develop. Then, of course, they get the supplemental pick out of it as well. A little bit of an underpay by the Reds, but I love the return for both teams. Kind of a win-win trade there. Dallas at 8.1. I've got to look at populations again. It's been way too long since I've looked. All right. As far as the other moves that we've seen, the Rangers bring in Chris Martin. Still wondering about the financials, but he's going to be their eighth inning guy, their setup guy. High leverage. I don't think he's going to be their closer, but I'll be surprised if he is. We'll see what happens with how this bullpen shakes out. I think they will still get a number 1 option as a closer, like a Kirby Yates, a Ryan Helsley, Tanner Scott, somebody in that ballpark. I think is what they're going to get done to kind of complete their offseason. If they get that one done and somehow swing Roki Sasaki, maybe they move on from John Gray and address bringing in other pieces to help out this roster as well. Other moves that we saw today, Owen White, DFA'd by the Rangers a couple weeks ago, gets traded to the Reds for cash. I think he's probably going to start the season at AAA there, but good for him that he gets to a team that might be able to utilize him at some point next year as well. Interesting to see how the Reds respond to Francona. Absolutely. I was surprised Francona came back, honestly. I get he's a baseball man through and through, but I thought his health was the primary reason why he was stepping away. A lot like why we thought Bochy was stepping away originally. He comes back to be the manager of the Rangers, and I guess he just couldn't stay away, and Francona comes back to be the manager of the Reds. I think there'll be a lot more professionalism in that clubhouse as well. Last move of the day, we did the Martin, we did the Lux, we did Owen White, and the last one was Michael Lorenzen, 1 year, $7 million to the Kansas City Royals. Great deal for them, $5.5 million base salary, $1.5 million buyout for next year. Total guarantee is $7 million. They have incentives in there that could take the deal to $8.5 million with a mutual option for another year of $12 million. The first major league free agent that the Royals have signed this offseason after spending the second most in free agency last year. So they weren't exactly expected to spend a whole lot of money this offseason anyway. They did that last year, especially for a Royals team that's never really spent in free agency. Last year was a bit of an anomaly. I really like the addition of Jonathan India. I think that's their biggest and best addition they'll make this offseason. They bring in Kevin Biggio yesterday on a minor league deal just in case India does falter and they need to bring up somebody from the minors. They give themselves some insurance there with Biggio. But really good moves anyway by the Royals. Like what they've been doing this offseason and last year as well. Paranormal, welcome in. Good to see you. Did the Yankees mean there were for sure going in on Luis Arraez? They are in on him. I wouldn't say that they're out at any point at this point. I think they're discussing it. I think they're talking to the Padres about getting something done. I think they still have their issues as far as his fit defensively, but I think they realize that they need to upgrade that lineup. Now, the money is going to be the hard part here because I don't think they're going to take back Stroman, and I don't think the Padres are going to eat too much of that deal. So if they make this deal, they're going to have to find somebody to take on Marcus Stroman's money. Probably have to attach a prospect or two. There are 3 teams that need to upgrade their salaries right now to avoid having a grievance filed against them by the MLBPA. I'm wondering if they try to work a 3-team deal. That sends Stroman to one of those three teams, those being the Rays, Marlins, and A's. I'd say the A's are most likely because they're still looking for some starting pitching. Maybe throw a prospect in there just to make the money work, or just to make it at least palatable for the A's to take on that salary for one season. The Yankees get the Yankees would already be getting a Luis Arraez out of the deal, so they don't really need to do anything there. But maybe as far as a piece that the A's could give up, maybe a prospect, a very low-level guy could end up going to the Padres there as well. So as far as their interest in Arraez, I think it is legitimate. I think it's real. I just think it's going to be contingent upon them offloading salary first, which may force them to come in second place for his services. So other teams might be able to take on that full salary of Luis Arraez without having to wait for the Yankees to trade off some salary. And so maybe they get him first. But we'll see. I think the Yankees are in there. I'm curious to see, where they finish or, if they get this one across the finish line. But I definitely wouldn't say that possibility is dead at the moment. Alrighty. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. Got a big show for you guys lined up for tomorrow. I'll be getting off a little bit early. We'll start tomorrow probably a little bit earlier in the evening, probably around the 7, 8 o'clock hour. So be sure to join us then. Really appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe. If you are new here, follow us on X @UpsideSN and on Facebook, Upside Sports Network. Thank you guys for joining us. Be safe out there. Stay warm, everybody.